Hey there, I'm Jen Mueller, host of the Unrivaled podcast, the podcast where athletes share their journey to becoming pros and the passions that fuel them outside of their sport. Today, our guest is Taylor Hearn, a starting pitcher for the Texas Rangers with a rodeo background and a bounce-back season on the horizon. We'll learn the ropes about his career path and how he's overcoming an unlucky 2019 season. But first, we need to welcome him to the podcast. Hey, Taylor.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. And it's unusual that I would start a baseball conversation with a question about the rodeo, but it truly does seem like the most natural place to start. Why was that among your earliest athletic pursuits? I mean, I know it was a natural fit, but why?
Well, just with it being my grandpa on my dad's side, with him being the first African American and doing a lot of things, being the first of a lot, and he always wanted to be a cowboy. So that was something he always wanted to do. Started doing calf roping, and then it transcended down to my dad and his three brothers, and then with me being the first grandchild and mainly grandson, and then only grandson, it was kind of like hey, it wasn't a baseball, it wasn't a football, it wasn't a basketball, it was a rope. The first thing I picked up. So.
How much of that is where you grew up? I mean, I grew up in Texas as well, and there's a stereotype of cowboys. And it wasn't until I was in high school that I met a few that I went to school with. But I mean, how much of that is just where your family is from that helped to fuel that passion?
I think it had a big thing to do with it, and then I still think it's funny to hear people's conversations that they see a 6'6" guy that's a pitcher, and they look at me and they're like, "You were a cowboy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I used to be, and still mess with it every now and then and stuff like that." So, but no, family is a big thing because we have a lot of family spread out in Dallas and Oklahoma. So it's like it's a rodeo family for a long generation.
But how did baseball even get on your radar in the first place?
So my parents just let me try every sport, and growing up I was a quarterback, and then the 3-guard and basketball and then baseball. They just let me play all sports, and I'm glad and very thankful that they didn't make me pick sports because I don't really like that when parents do that. But I did all those sports growing up, going all through high school, and then when I got to high school, for some odd reason I just couldn't. I couldn't tell you why I picked baseball because I just stopped playing football. I just stopped playing basketball, and I couldn't. To this day I can't tell you why I just stopped, But I really think God had something to do with that for sure.
Was there a moment that you just fell in love with it?
Yeah, for sure. I probably when I got to being like a sophomore is when things got pretty serious. I thought. Because I started throwing harder, things started, I was able to, manipulate and do a lot of things. And I was like, man, let me just try to put more time into this because, I could definitely be pretty good at this. So I'd probably say definitely sophomore in high school.
Was there ever any conflicting emotions knowing the legacy that your family had in the rodeo and knowing that you were successful in the rodeo when you started to focus more on baseball?
Honestly, it was honestly my grandpa. I know for a fact he wasn't too happy about it because he see your one and only grandson, you would hopefully want him to follow in your footsteps. And I don't think he really knew anything about baseball. And I think maybe he knew a little bit. But he was honestly, I think, the only person that was a little upset that I didn't do that because everybody else knows. And my dad even told me for years, and my uncles as well, that, making a living in rodeo is very, very tough. You got a better shot of making a better living in baseball.
But I bet you still use some of those skills, or at least the mindset from the rodeo then, today. What are some of those things, either skills or mindset, that still haven't gone away?
Confidence, work ethic, patience. What else I got? Definitely not, and not letting the moment get too big because I've been going to rodeos for a while and just going to rodeos, you're always going to be performing in front of not just a couple hundred people, but, thousands of people, and I think that's something that helped me out a lot to help whenever I do pitch in like big stadiums. It's not a big deal to me. Because I'm used to it. I was used to it as a young age, competing. But then also, probably the biggest thing the difference between, higher levels of minor league and major league. Just the game speed of the game, speeding up on you. Because in the event I do, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. So you can actually get too caught up in it and get out of whack. So that's where you got to be able to diagnose things and be able just to calm down and take it step by step and not rush anything.
My guess is you still have some folks that you talk to on a regular basis, whether it's somebody from the rodeo or an old teacher or a coach. Who is it that still texts or emails or calls on a regular basis?
That would be my lifetime pitching coach trainer, Omar Washington, he's been my pitching coach since I was 7 years old. So that's somebody who I talk to on the daily outside of my parents. He has a lot to do with who I am today and help mold me to the pitcher who I am today. So he's somebody who I'm always watching video with, trying to diagnose things, and just that's somebody outside of family that I always talk to 24/7.
Is there somebody else, or maybe he is the one that you text before or after every game?
Besides my sister and mom and dad, yeah, that's probably it. He's always checking up on me.
You text each of your family members before or after every game?
They usually text me. They usually
they beat you to the punch.
Every time. My sister's always the first one that does it. She'll send me a text like early in the morning, while I'm still asleep. She's like, "Hey, good luck," and stuff like that. And then my mom will, then my dad will, and then if they don't usually text me before the game, they always text me after the game.
At what point did you recognize that you had the talent? I mean, in high school, you started to love the sport, but when did you recognize you had the talent to play at a higher level?
When I got to high school, started throwing a little harder. Things started coming to me a little bit easier when I was pitching. I started to realize that I was a little different than most of the kids coming out there. I was the guy that was a big lefty that had a lot of deception, that people couldn't, hit the ball because I was coming at a different angle and, just different things. So for sure in high school, is when it really hit me.
But it hits you at a different level when you recognize just how hard it is to get to the big leagues. How do you quantify that commitment and that sacrifice that it takes?
Oh, geez. I think it starts at an early age, like high school, I think it got a little bit better in college because, college is more so like a job. These guys, you're out there every day throwing, you're out there working on something every day. So college for sure is when it really, really kicked in. Because I didn't really work out that much in high school. When I got to college, that's when it really, really hit me. And I was like, all right, if I want to say I'm going to do this, I'm here on a scholarship, I want to get the most out of it.
Yeah, it does kind of bring it to a new level. And so does getting your first check as a pro. What do you remember about opening that envelope or seeing that check?
Geez. Couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was like, if they could only just add a couple more zeros onto it. But that first check was great though. That first check was awesome. I think it was cool to get it. And then after seeing it, I remember sitting down in my hotel bed and just looking at it. And I was like, I want to do whatever I can to get more of these and add more zeros onto it, and know that it's going to take time. So, but I was definitely excited.
So when you think about your big league debut, it's something that every kid dreams of. How did your debut compare to what you thought it was going to be?
Not even close. It was day and night. I never, not one time ever in my life, I ever thought I would not be able to get out of the first inning. I had always pictured myself being able to go 6, 7 innings, or, complete game and stuff like that was always something I've always wanted to do, and to have that happen was definitely, a little different. But, I learned a lot from it. There's a lot of stuff out of my control, a lot of stuff I couldn't, had nothing to do with. But, it's just part of baseball, because that also helped remind me, and that's already instilled in me that you're never ever going to have a good outing every time you pitch. So even on your debut. So that's why I kind of embrace it and tell people about it. Like, hey, don't ever think you're going to go out here and try to just shove it and just kill everything, because, even on my debut, I didn't even get out of the first inning. No, I was injured, but still, like, use me as an example.
Well, and that 24-hour span must have been like a roller coaster, because what happened the next day when they did diagnose you with the injury and then you ended up going on the injured list?
Yeah, I ended up leaving that next day to fly to Dallas to get diagnosed. It was a lot. I remember just sitting in my bedroom just thinking, like, man, like, what did I do? I just let a lot of people down, and it was a lot out of my control. And I was like, man, like, I really wanted to do something, but yeah, it was a lot. But I mean, I wasn't too worried about it. I was able to come back to Arizona, rehabbing, and just sit in my room and be able to just sit and just digest it and be like, look, it's part of the game. We've had outings like this before, so let's not let one outing define our major league career.
But that could have so easily derailed you or derailed other people. I mean, how do you get through that for an entire year? And I guess, how would you advise others who are facing obstacles to get through them as a result?
Definitely not rush the rehab process. And it's not like I was trying to rush it or anything, but it was like just one, it was like the elbow, and then there was something else, and it was like a fracture and stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing is what I tell people all the time is, like, when you're going through rehab, no matter what it is, don't rush it. I'd honestly, because that's the last thing you want to do is try to get hurt and then get hurt even worse. So that's the big thing I try to tell people. Is one thing I continue to learn during that whole rehab process is, hey, just stay where my feet are, and just take it day by day, and let's get better, and let's not rush this thing, and let's do it right, and let's do even more treatment to make sure we're on top of it.
I know that you grew up a fan of every Dallas team. Is playing close to home a blessing, or is it added pressure?
I definitely see it as a blessing. I think it can be added pressure if I think it all just depends on who you have around you, and I'm a guy that doesn't really have, I'm not going to sit here and have an entourage. I'm not going to sit here and be hanging out and going out all the time, because, the people that know me, I don't even go out, and I like staying in my room, like staying in my apartment, just relaxing. I'm a big, like, homebody guy. Love video games. So I'm definitely stay-at-home guy.
I know that there has been a greater emphasis and awareness on getting more African-American players in baseball in the last few years. And I've talked to a number of different players about it, but why is that important from your point of view?
I think it's just crazy to see how athletic a lot of African-American Black kids are that play basketball and football. Like, a bunch of them that I know can, it's not the prettiest thing, but they can actually pick up a ball and actually throw it pretty far because they're used to throwing a football. And, majority of them are fast. They're very strong. They got a lot of work ethic and stuff. So, but, I think it's one thing I've always emphasized on, even now, now that I'm back home, I want to, like, when I go speak to a bunch of the kids at a bunch of the elementary schools and middle schools and high school, that's one of the things I tell them is, I'm like, hey, like, yes, I play for the Rangers. Hey, you may see me on TV, but I'm here talking to you and letting you know that, hey, use me as an example that I'm a hometown kid and I made it, in the major leagues. I'm playing in the major leagues, but I'm just a normal person, just like the rest of y'all, no matter how much money I'm making and everything. Like, I'm always going to be a personal person because I want to help people out, and that's why I want to use my platform the best I can and just, try to help kids out.
So what other causes, nonprofits, charitable organizations are close to your heart that you use your platform for?
Me and my trainer, Omar, we put on camps, pitching camps all the time. And my plan is to put on, a good amount of them, or one big one in the city of Dallas, and try to get as many inner city kids as I can, or have as many pitch camps as I can to try to spread the word and just, try to get kids a little taste of baseball and, like, what it's like growing up, and what it takes to just get to certain certain, the professional level, high school, college, and professional level, of course.
Well, we hope that we see you pitching a lot during the course of the season, because we do predict that it is a bounce back year for you. Thank you for spending some time with us and sharing your story today, Taylor.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Unrivaled Sports Podcast, giving fans a refreshing look at sports. I'm Jen Mueller. Please find our complete profile at unrivaled-sports.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Look for Unrivaled's next profile of a likable and underestimated pro athlete coming soon.